Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Moran Water Board meeting of January 23, 2024. If we could have a roll call, please.
Yes, good evening. Director Larry Russell, Director Monty Schmidt,
Present.
Director Jed Smith,
Here.
Vice President Matt Sampson,
Here.
and President Ranjiv Kush.
Here.
Thank you.
And moving on, do we have a motion to adopt today's agenda?
So moved. Second.
Are there any public comments on the agenda?
There are none.
Then we'll have a vote, please, to adopt the agenda.
Yes. Director Schmidt.
Aye.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Vice President Sampson,
Yes.
and President Kush.
Aye.
Thank you.
And today we're going to begin with a closed session to discuss two items: anticipated litigation and a potential real estate negotiation. Terry, do we have any public comments on items for the closed session?
There are none.
Okay, then with that, we will now adjourn to closed session. Okay, Terry. Okay, so our closed session adjourned at about 6:32 with no actionable items to report. Moving along then, Terry, do we have any public comments on items that are not on our agenda?
Yes, we do. We have Mr. Phil Sauter.
Good evening. On September 5th of last year, I commented to the board that Marin Water's mission statement is to provide a reliable supply of drinking water to our customers. I copied that language from the district's webpage as of that morning 5 months ago. Yesterday, when I checked the district's webpage on the mission statement, the phrase drinking water was nowhere to be found. In fact, the mission statement as it existed 5 months ago no longer seems to be front and center on the district's webpage. And when the district's mission is mentioned on a mission and vision webpage, it says under the mission section that MMWD will manage our natural resources in a sustainable manner and provide our customers with reliable, high-quality water at a reasonable price. And under the vision section, it says that MMWD will be a valued water service provider supporting the high quality of life in Marin County. Again, no mention of water as something customers drink and wash with and use to sustain life throughout the watershed. The district's mission seems to somehow have morphed from supplying water that supports life into a mission that now supports the high quality of life in Marin, whatever that means, and which some could reasonably interpret as the right to a lush green lawn. My background is in the private sector, where a company's mission statement is hammered out with great care, crafted to be both simple and complete, and is modified rarely and only with the same care that went into the original. Yet in the case of Marin Water's mission statement, it appears to have somehow changed without public discussion that I'm aware of to move Marin Water from a life-sustaining enterprise to a quality of life-sustaining enterprise. And if the mission actually has changed or is in the process of changing, this is being done at a time when water is projected to become ever more precious and potentially more scarce. Today, I just don't see a basis for promising that we can or should expand the use of potable water for non-potable purposes. I hope I've just been confused by background fiddling with the website, but if these changes have been intentional, I'm going to request that something as major as changing the district's mission statement be done with great transparency and full public involvement, rather than by changing words on a website without sufficient notice and explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Okay, then we'll move on to directors and general managers announcements. Larry, starting with you.
None.
Jed?
No.
Matt?
Yes, thank you, Ranjiv. A few things. One, on the 10th of this month, I attended the Tomales Bay meeting that was focused on the Tomales Water Quality Summit that's coming up on February 16th. And I've reached out to our general manager to have staff support. And once I get a little bit better idea of what they're looking for in terms of scope of presentation, I'll be able to report back. But the next one's on February 16th. And then I was a little disappointed that Mother Nature got in the way and we got our first broom pull in the watershed canceled this last weekend, but the 17th of February, the next one's on my calendar. Hope to see someone else out there too. Yes. Well, the rain does make it easier to pull, which is half of it. So good, good. And then the next item for a request is on the 8th of next month. I'll be joining a discussion on the benefits of returning prescribed fire back to Marin County at a much higher return ratio. And that's through the MCL Park and Open Space Committee. I'm hoping we have some staff join as well and be part of that presentation. I'm really looking forward to it. The speakers that they're bringing in to support it are very progressive in this area. So very much looking forward to seeing what they're going to say. And then one other request in the general manager report out in terms of the rebate systems, if we could add the line item for the new sprinkler control rebate that we're doing, that's going to tie in with the actual Flume devices. See the uptake on that, that'd be appreciated. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. February 17th. Monty? Okay, I'm good as well. So Ben?
None tonight, President.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. We'll move on to approval of our consent items, which include our January 9th meeting minutes. And I just wanted to flag one of the items on our consent calendar because it is something that I feel very good about, which is the reclassification of our watershed resource manager position to Director of Watershed Resources. Great job, Sean. So I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved. Second.
Do we have any public comment on consent items?
Yes, we do. We have two, Mr. Phil Sauter and Frank Egger. Go ahead, Mr. Sauter.
Sorry for taking two bites of the apple so early on. As several of us have been advocating for speeding up conservation activities, especially reducing the use of high quality potable water for outdoor landscape irrigation, I was interested in our conservation activities for the past few years. In item 7B, the general manager's report for December 2023, I noticed a couple of trends that seem to be going in the opposite direction from what we might expect. The first activity that seemed to be headed south was the total number of conservation assistance program consultations. In fiscal 2021-2022, there were 731 total such consultations, or 2.5 per average weekday. The following fiscal year, there were 291 such consultations, or a little more than 1 per average weekday. And halfway through this fiscal year, there have been 182 such consultations, or less than 1.5 per average weekday. It seems our outreach is declining. The second program that seemed to be nosediving is the Cash for Grass Turf Replacement Program. In fiscal 2021-22, there were 402 approved turf replacements, or 2 every weekday. The following fiscal year, there were only 116 approved turf replacements, or just about 2 every week. And halfway through this fiscal year, there have been just 37 approved turf replacements, or less than 1.5 every week. Our turf conversion efforts appear to be slowing down. Rather than speeding up the timetable to save 4 million gallons a day through conservation, primarily by reducing the use of high quality potable water outdoors, it seems we're cutting back our efforts even as we're raising the budget for conservation. I know that this board and staff are quite capable of causing things to happen when they focus on specific issues. When I see the success we've had in encouraging customers to make reliable and predictable reductions in their use of indoor water, it makes me all the more eager to see our attention turned to helping customers reduce their use of potable water outdoors. We've got as far as putting a little extra money into the conservation budget, and in my opinion, the next step is figuring out how to deliver tangible results from that investment. Perhaps at a future meeting, I'm hopeful we can focus on some past successes and how to carry and enhance these efforts into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frank Egger and then Larry Minikis.
Thank you very much. Frank Egger from Fairfax, and I'm speaking for the North Coast Rivers Alliance this evening. And I'd like to comment on item 7B. I want to congratulate the Marin Municipal Water District on receiving the $599,689 grant from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. It's part of the Restoration Grant Program. I urge you to investigate the feasibility of constructing a volitional fish passage over Seeger Dam, the dam that was built in 1961 on Nicasio Creek. For a while, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, it was called Fish and Game at the time, had a fish trap below the dam, and they moved the salmonids that were coming up to spawn up above the dam and released them. That dam blocked 50% of the watershed of Lagunitas Creek for spawning and rearing streams. I fished Nicasio and Hella Creeks when I was a kid, way before the dam was built. So, you know, it'd be wonderful if, in fact, MMWD could look at the opportunity to construct a volitional fish passage to get coho and steelhead back up to Nicasio and Halleck Creeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Larry Minikis, and then Wendy Callens, please.
Yes, good evening, folks. I'm recovering from recent total knee replacement surgery, so it'll be a while before you'll see my pretty face in there. But I just want to take an opportunity on behalf of the Marin Conservation League to congratulate Sean Horn on his promotion. He's doing an excellent job. We are very, very fortunate to have him. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Callens?
Yes, this is Wendy Callens with Sustainable Marin. And I also want to speak to item B and echo Phil Sauter's concerns about the lack of progress in water efficiency strategies actually moving forward. At the last meeting of the Water Efficiency Subcommittee, I had mentioned that looking at the different approaches from cost-effective all the way to aggressive, we saw that the end results were not that different, but what we didn't see was how quickly we could achieve conservation efforts if using the different approaches. And I still haven't seen anything on the agenda that would allow us to get that information. I think it would be very useful to see if a more aggressive approach could achieve conservation efforts a lot sooner than 2045. The other thing that I'm concerned about is the AMI, putting that off until an unknown future date, when that is so important as far as informing customers and the district as far as what is being accomplished from house to house with conservation. So I think that both of those things need to be agendized. And I want to again echo Phil's request that we put that on a future agenda so we can discuss that in full. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Thanks, Terry. Could we have a vote then to approve the consent items?
Yes, Director Russell,
Aye.
Director Schmidt,
Aye.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Vice President Sampson,
Aye.
and President Kush.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll begin our regular agenda with item 8A, our 2024 Board of Director Committee assignments and external assignments. Adrian, I think you're kicking us off.
Yeah, good evening, directors. Adrian Mertens, Communications and Public Affairs. So each year, one of the duties of president of the board is to appoint the directors to internal committees as well as to represent the district on our regional committees and boards. And that is done in discussion and advisement with each individual board member. And I believe the president has done that at this time. And so I will turn it over to President Kush to announce his appointments.
Thanks, Adrian. Yeah, so based on feedback from all of our board members, the general message was to stick with what works. I think the assignments that Monty, that you guided us through last year were seen as productive and positive. And so as a result, I'm only proposing one small change from our 2023 assignments, which is related to the what I think is now the Tomales Bay Foundation previously the Tomales Bay Watershed Council. Is that right? Yeah. So, but maybe I can run through all of the assignments and then open it up for discussion and all of the proposed assignments. Sorry. So, starting from the top, Operations Committee Chair Larry Russell, Vice Chair myself, Ranjiv Kush, Watershed Committee Chair Matt Sampson, Vice Chair Monty Schmidt, Finance and Administration Committee Chair Jed Smith, Vice Chair Monty Schmidt, Communications and Water Efficiency Committee Chair myself, Ranjiv Kush, Vice Chair Jed Smith. So that's it for our committees. And then just quickly our external assignments. So beginning with 1TAM, our representative remains Matt Sampson, alternate Monty Schmidt. Lagunitas Creek Technical Advisory Committee, Representative Monty Schmidt, alternate Matt Sampson. North Bay Watershed Association, representative is Larry Russell, alternate is again myself. The Sonoma County Water Agency Advisory Committee, the representative would be Jed Smith, alternate Larry Russell. North Bay Water Reuse Authority, representative Larry Russell, alternate myself again. And then finally, the Tomales Bay Foundation. Here's where I'm proposing a change. Previously, Monty was our representative. I'm suggesting that Matt take over as representative for 2024 with Monty as our alternate. So those are my proposals. Great to hear your feedback on this. Larry, again, I'll start with you.
Cool.
Jed.
Cool.
Matt.
Yes, I'm cool.
Monty.
I'm good with the proposal.
Okay, well, yeah, if it isn't broken, let's not try to fix it, I think. Terry, any public comments on our 2024 committee structures, external assignments?
There are none.
Then if I could ask for a motion to approve these committee and external assignments.
So moved.
Second.
Terry, if we could have a vote, please.
Yes. Director Russell, Director Schmidt,
Aye.
Director Smith,
Aye.
Vice President Sampson,
Aye.
and President Kush.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 8B on our agenda is a water supply update. Welcome, Lucy. Over to you. And Paul.
Of course, Terry's got extra batteries.
Have a battery just like that? Yeah. Hopefully it works though.
More of a challenge when you can't do it.
Yeah, it's turned.
Yeah.
Good evening. Can you hear okay?
Yes.
Get
Okay.
more into it.
Thank you. Good evening, Board of Directors. I'm Lucy Croy, Water Quality Manager.
And Paul Sellier, Water Resources Director.
Thank you for your patience. And tonight we have the water supply update, fortunately coming after this weekend and the storms we've received. Tonight we'll give an update on the water supply conditions, including the rain that we received this past weekend. We'll go through an update with the seasonal forecast that we're expecting through the end of the spring, and then wrap up with a projection of our water supply. So starting off with a look at rainfall through just yesterday or this morning, actually, were the orange line as of coming up here just above average. We were tracking with average before this weekend. And going into this weekend, we actually received about 7 inches over the past 4 days. So it was a good storm, good back-to-back storms we received out in the watershed, with Mount Tam kind of receiving its rain shadow. And we're now just above 32 inches, which is about 122% of average for this date. So sitting well for this time of year for January. And in October, we talked about actually starting off at a historical high in storage. This purple line is this year's storage line, and that's largely due to the rainfall we received last year, conservation efforts, and then also our operational strategy with taking Sonoma water early in the year. And so following that purple line, you can see that with the rainfall we've received this year, we've actually filled up. And as of yesterday morning, Monday morning, after those storms, we filled up and hit 100% and are now spilling. All of them are spilling. So that's good to see. And hopefully we can maintain that through the spring and kind of maintain full reservoirs for a bit longer through probably May or so, hopefully, depending on what the rest of the months look like.
Of course, it means that we're basically spilling the Sonoma water volumetrically.
We haven't taken over our minimum at this point. We've just taken below that. We've turned down Ignacio quite a bit. We've actually turned it off for now, and are using it intermittently. And we'll turn it back on once we stop spilling. Our partners to the north, Sonoma Water, they're also doing great after the rainfall. And these numbers are actually a couple days old. The runoff has been coming in. You know, I can't update these numbers fast enough actually for how much runoff they're getting as well. So Lake Sonoma, right before the meeting, I looked and they were actually at 108% of their water supply pool, and Lake Mendocino is at 95% of supply storage. So both are above average for this time of year. So everyone in the region seems to be doing well.
Yeah, it's about the best kind of rain we can get. It gets wet, stays wet, keeps
Right.
coming,
Right.
keeps running off.
Right.
Lucy, can you remind us for Lake Sonoma storage, the difference between water supply pool and flood control pool?
So the water supply storage is about 245,000 acres.
No, but sorry, Lucy, what does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
So
like, but why do we have, why do they have different kind of levels for those?
Flood control device too. So they save space to put the flood, so they don't flood the downstream. That's what all of Jared's stuff has been about, this predicting.
Right. I just don't know why they're set at.
Why they're what?
So
There-
some dams are put in strictly for water supply. Some may be put in strictly for flood control, many are both. And when you do a dam for a dual purpose, you want to reserve capacity for
Okay.
floods. So that's really
That's what it
this is.
represents.
It's what you need to reserve for floods. And what you hear with FIRO, what they're doing is in early storms or later storms, able to encroach into the flood pool. So you have a nice storm in May, you can keep that water.
As opposed to the rigid limits, which they used to have, which said on this date, you will be at this limit. That's what FARO changed.
Right.
The problem, of course, is you're guessing. And, you know, if you guess wrong,
Right.
Educated.
Better than, yeah.
it's educated, yes, but it's educated on the past, which may not be relevant. That's the problem with climate change. You may not be able to use the past to predict the future. That's the hooker.
Right. But for us,
I think this is based more on short-term analysis of moisture levels in atmospheric rivers, right? It's not really predictive as much as analyzing more sophisticated analysis of moisture.
From a water storage perspective, the new FIRO requirements for Sonoma are a benefit for us because now they can store more. So
Absolutely.
the recent change, regardless of the analysis and what went around, how they came about it, and I'm not the scientist to help you out, I think we benefit from their benefit of having a little bit more storage now than they did before.
That's right.
A lot. It opened up a lot of.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands.
Now, just for clarity, and I think you all understand this, none of our 7 dams and lakes have a flood pool. So they're all strictly water supply.
But the Yuba River, you're probably all too young to remember Yuba City flooding, but Yuba City used to flood every 2 or 3 years, serious flood. And they put the dam in and they have a huge storage for
Flood control.
flood control. And it made everything change. Now, San Anselmo, they're still arguing about what to do with the creek, and so far I've not seen much progress. They're thinking about it.
Gentlemen, I'd like to kindly remind you for the benefit of our Zoom users to please speak into the mics. Thank you.
Sorry, listen.
Oh, it's good. Good conversation. Let's see, we'll move to the next one. Okay. So, as I mentioned, our demand has been down, over the last few years, and, that's played into how our supply conditions have stayed high going into this water year. And so you can see the red line is 2020 and the most recent is 2023 and the blue on the right. And what we've seen is demand has still stayed about 21% below those 2020 levels, but we are seeing a small kind of creep up. So kind of as expected, we're just seeing a small little bump up through the winter months. And then taking an annual look back at our production, this is a little bit of a longer look back over 20 years. Kind of as expected, we see that overall our demand has decreased since 2004. And this largely kind of aligns with what we expect to see, even when growth has kind of increased slightly over that time period. So it's good to kind of see a trend over that period of still going downwards and water efficiency increasing. As a seasonal forecast, NOAA issued this map last week. I wouldn't say it's the most helpful map, at least when it comes to our region. Our region has equal chances as far as precipitation through February, March, April. And they say that temperature may be a little bit warmer. But what I will note is that NOAA is also saying that we're still in El Nino conditions. They are forecasting that El Nino will weaken slightly through the spring, and then they're expecting that it'll become neutral through the summer months. I can't really expect what that means necessarily for us. We see that in El Nino years that typically on average, we do receive more rainfall, just slightly above average, but not in all El Nino years. So we'll see kind of how this year plays out, but kind of just a summary of what we can see through the next few months. And then looking at our storage projections through early 2025, the green line is at the top. It's a little bit hard to see actually on this projection. I might need to go with a darker line, but that's average. So that's average rainfall runoff. And as I noted earlier, we're right now a little bit above average. So you could expect that if we were to continue along that trend line, we'd stay above that, or we'd stay higher than that, which is good. Storage would stay kind of in that upper 70 to 80,000 acre feet. The other scenario is the lower two lines. That's a 50% rainfall runoff. And what I'll note for that is it sounds 50% is actually a very rare occasion. What we see is that it's really a drought condition. It only happens maybe once every 10, 12 years. And so what's also shown on the right-hand side is the amount of runoff that we get that correlates with that type of year. So if we were to get 26 inches of rain, what we see around that, depending on when it falls, how much it saturates the soil, it's around 17,000 acre feet or so, depending on how it goes. And so that's why it's so much lower. And that's also why this scenario would probably trigger some of our drought triggers. But all in all, what is interesting with this chart is that what you see is that either way, starting with our storage levels at a very high level right now, in 18 months, we still have a vulnerability to drought if the conditions were to change and go dry. As I mentioned before, our operational strategy through the beginning of this year has been to take water from Sonoma early in the summer and fall and maximize that. And as you can see, we're still below our minimum, as shown kind of in this table on the right. And given the favorable reservoir storage conditions that we have and the rain that we've received, we've backed off starting in November, December, we've backed off, and we've actually now, as of January, turned down Ignacio, and actually we're only going to intermittently operate it as needed to kind of keep water quality optimal in that area. And then on the right-hand side, just showing how much reservoir we take in addition. And what's not noted on here is also how much we release from our reservoirs to the stream releases down below. And that's about 6,000 acre feet over the same period. So all in all, a pretty positive water supply update. Happy to have brought this update to you this week and not last week, for sure, after the storms. It's nice to see the it's not every year that our storage that our reservoirs all fill up. So it's good to see that and kind of start off the year full. So it's great to have that historical high level at the beginning and have continued it through the winter months. And we'll continue to monitor El Nino conditions and demand trends and keep you apprised.
As my flight instructor says, you have a choice between good and lucky. Take lucky. It's on. Maybe she's got me unplugged or something. How long is the historical? When you say that the highest water level in historical, is that from the beginning, like
That's
76 or
since we've raised
80?
since we've raised Kent. So it's as long as we've had that storage
It's about 80 or
capacity.
82
So
or something.
83.
Yeah.
So
That's
30,
interesting.
40 years.
Any other board comments, Jed?
Yeah, I think it's important for the public to realize that the importance of water efficiency and conservation is no less now, even though it's rained. All of the items that folks are doing, especially turf replacement, as was brought up earlier, is critical. Now's the time, frankly, to look at your lawns, look at your landscape, look at your habit, and do your best to conserve. We really still only have an 18-month supply. Maybe more, a little bit, depending on, whether it rains again. So just because it's raining doesn't mean we're all good. We're all good for now. Keep up the good work. Marin is a leader, and let's keep it going. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Matt?
Yeah, going back to your reservoir storage prediction slide, it is a powerful reminder of how much urgency is needed to make sure we get these water projects right, because we're coming off historic rain years, and we're talking about in 18 months activating drought rates should we go dry, and we saw how quickly the climate changed on that. So again, to follow up on Jed's comments and just reinforce the importance of that. The other ask is, what was really interesting last year after all the rains was the amount we spilled over the course of the year. If we could keep track on that and sometime this spring look at that number, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just echo that over my now 3.5 year tenure, 3-year tenure, I've watched this graph change so dramatically that it's stunning. And to see projections that 2 years ago were taking us to frighteningly low levels. The projections going forward are really great, important reminders, and I think that it would be really helpful if instead of choosing like 50%, if we could tie it to something, because 50% is kind of is boundless. I feel like if it was tied to a certain dry year scenario, like if we compared it to 2020 or something like that, it would give people an ability, because I don't know if folks in general know what to make of a 50% water year. And it is an extremely dry year, as you said. It's like a 1 in 12 year kind of event, so that's pretty extreme. So I just think that's really helpful. Also, showing the projections, if we get above average, how quickly we begin to spill, and I think that also highlights that we do have options for looking at expanding our storage, that how quickly, when we are in these kinds of situations, if we are able to expand our storage, how often we might be able to take advantage of that. So these projections are super helpful and really appreciate it.
But also keep in mind that when we spill, it reduces our release. So we're required to meet certain stream conditions, so it balances out. It isn't as bad as it might seem because we're closing down the valve that would be open anyway at the bottom of the reservoir, or more or less. So it's not as harsh as it seems that you're spilling. And the fish enjoy it.
Maybe Lucy, just I was thinking about that. If we were to experience a 50% reduction in runoff, which you said is a not a high probability event, that would just, what you showed was through the remainder of our current rainy season. Is that right? Which
Yes, if we basically from here on out, we had dry conditions through February and on, and then also basically another 18 months of dry conditions. So starting
By
from here on out and then into the next season.
by April 2025,
Yeah.
when we do our assessments,
Yeah.
we would be triggering a water shortage contingency.
Well, assuming, of course, that it doesn't rain next year. It's 2 years. See, to get to 25, right?
Right.
It's gotta not rain in the winter.
Or rain
This
at
year.
the level that only gives us about 50% of what we normally get in terms
Yeah.
of runoff.
It's very similar to what we experienced in leading into the last drought, where we got a little bit of rain in 2019 and then it dried up. And then in 2020, we got barely anything.
Right.
And that kind of put us in a very severe situation.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think all of this together just emphasizes what everyone has noted is we have small buckets. They fill very quickly. They also empty very quickly. Hence, conservation as well as improving the resilience of that supply just remains mission critical. Thanks a lot.
And it's also why in 1960, we should have joined the aqueduct when we had the opportunity, but the district saw it differently. It made life much more
The
complicated.
district or some forces saw it differently. Thank you, Lucy.
There are no public comments.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
That's a great presentation on the weather. I appreciated it very much. I think it should be kind of routine for a bit.
Okay, moving to agenda item 8C, strategic plan development. Adrian?
Good evening again, directors. Adrienne Mertens, Communications and Public Affairs Manager. Been a kind of lead on corralling the strategic plan development process, and here tonight with Charles Gardner of Catalyst. Catalyst is a consultant providing support and helping to facilitate input and discussion on our next strategic plan, as well as guiding staff and helping to draft our next 5-year strategic plan. This is our 8th meeting on the strategic planning process. We did start back in the summer, and Charles had individual meetings with each of the board members. We've had a great deal of internal staff meetings, cross-functional work group meetings, to get input to help with guiding development of this plan. Our past 7 meetings have been informational and rich in discussion and input from the board to help staff on direction and guiding each of the various elements of the plan, as well as updates to our mission, vision, and value statements, which we will get into this evening as well. Tonight, this 8th meeting is actually an action item, and staff will be recommending that the board approve the proposed plan. In our past several meetings, we focused specifically on each of the 5 goals of the plan. and really spent a great deal of time on each of them. Tonight, me and a few of my colleagues will be going through each of those goals, though not line by line to recover all 113 action items that are dispersed throughout all 5 goals. What we intend to do is really highlight where we heard board input since the last time those goals were in front of you, and explain how we've addressed that input in the latest update to the goals that you'll see tonight. So that will really be where the focus is when we get into each of those 5. In front of you are also 2 documents that were in the staff report as attachments. The first is a red line of each of the 5 goals. So it does track where the changes were made to really help to highlight where we've inserted input that we received in prior meetings. And then additionally in front of you is a working draft of the design of the plan. Still some work to do on that. We've been working on it a little less time than the 8 months of the planning process, just had a week to start getting that together, but wanted to be able to show you what our intentions are for the final published product that will be made available on the website for the public and distributed to our staff once this is finally approved and finalized. And with that, I will turn it over to Charles to go through mission, vision, and values and purpose of tonight's meeting.
Good evening, directors. Nice to see you again. Charles Gardner with the Catalyst Group. I have just a couple of slides before we get to hearing from staff, as Adrian said. So our purpose tonight is to review the draft strategic plan. We have an updated mission, vision, and values. Refined goals and objectives, again, as Adrian was saying, built on the discussions that we've had with you and the staff over the last 4 or 5 months. And we've included a brief section on the progress reporting. So how the strategic plan would go forward and report to you on the progress as it gets implemented. So I think the key question tonight is, are there any final revisions, suggestions, thoughts from each of you to polish this and finally and then publish it? So again, you're probably tired of seeing this, but just as context, the vision, the mission, the goals, the objectives, and the values all being really foundational to this, and the details in the goals and objectives that lead to the actions that will be implemented each year over the next 5 years to move forward towards those goals.
I think you should at least bounce off of Phil Sauter's comments about the mission statement. I can assure you, Phil, it was a long and hard slug to get through the changes. It wasn't, as it might have appeared, to be so light. I am most concerned, though, about his comment about the drinking water. That one caught me. That's interesting. It caught me a little off guard. I don't remember our discussion about deleting that, but apparently it was deleted. So
I think we should maybe go through the slides where we cover mission, vision, and values, because I think we're talking about 2 different things, that the existing statements and some information on our website, just general information about the district, and then what we're actually proposing as the updated.
I guess I'm ahead of you because I'm already on that page. So you give us the pictures and we know where to go.
Okay. So mission, vision, values. This is the update based on the conversations over the last several months. So the proposed mission is that Marin Water manages the lands, water, and facilities in our trust to provide reliable, high-quality water and adapt and sustain these precious resources for the future. And the vision is that Marin Water is a leader in water and natural resource management and addressing the complexities of a changing environment. So I'll pause here and see if there are...
Yeah, I mean, it'll be good to have any other board, but I know that we spent a lot of time working on these. These are not, they don't lack for thinking and input, including from the public. We've had 7 sessions. I know they're not all focused on mission and vision, but we've had multiple public sessions on this. So I hope that we're feeling pretty good about where we've arrived.
Well, I think that, let's go back.
Yeah.
I think that still the thought should be given to whether that should say drinking water or water. I understand that you're reaching in the second one into natural resources, but in the first one, it's not necessarily that, because I mean, we are a water company.
We do provide water for commercial, for institutional. We do provide water for landscaping. I mean, it is what we do. I did understand the point, but this doesn't seem inaccurate.
I actually thought you were going to say something different. What I would have said is that we do provide water for the fish. I think that's the one that should be highlighted,
Right.
Which makes me lean back towards the water. But I think also the fact that we are a drinking water company funded by drinking water or water, if you want to look at it that way. It's an interesting concept or thought.
Larry, your high quality water is that for you is not, does not capture all the different activities that we have to address. I mean,
I think it is not as transparent. I think you need to think back to what Phil said. It previously said that, now it says this. That's sort of what I'm bouncing off of here. I'm not actually proposing a change at this moment, but I want to change, put that out for thought, that perhaps there's a adjective that's missing there.
I guess I'll echo what Larry is saying here, which is I think these are really carefully thought out words, and I appreciate it. And we could wordsmith this for another decade. But I do think that, you know, in many ways, this isn't about speaking to those of us who are sitting around the dais here. It's speaking to the folks in the audience who are our customers, that we are trying to communicate who we are to. And drinking water is the primary thing that people experience from us. And while it's clearly embedded as water people, we know it is, it maybe warrants being spelled out in simple terms, you know. And so I just want to, in part, I'm really looking forward to hearing from our customers, because we can make something that speaks to us and can completely miss the mark, and I would worry about that.
I definitely hear what's being said here, but I think, you know, into the conservation perspective, if we just provide, or water was just used for drinking, we wouldn't have a supply chain issue. But the percentage of our water that's used for drinking is so low. So if that's just the mission and we're focusing on the smallest percentage of what we're doing, it's kind of tough to capture everything for me. And especially when we start diving into the next piece about natural resource management, and then we start diving into values, I think everything starts to become a lot more clear on why the mission is worded the way it is.
Jed?
Yeah, I'm supportive of how you worded the mission. Drinking water is a part of what we do. I think Ben, you outlined all the other ways that people use our water and that are very important, including the habitat. So I wouldn't change anything.
Larry, another thing I was thinking is that, you know, you'd like ideally for everyone in the organization to see the mission and sort of see their role. You know, we have a sizable reclamation facility. A lot of work goes into it to ensure compliance, and, you know, it's not drinking water per se, backflow program. So I think it would work. I just think this may resonate more with staff, but I understand Director Schmidt's point that it's the public, you know, that's probably more important.
Yeah, I agree that, you know, the majority of our customers probably look at their water primarily from the lens of drinking, but certainly not all, right? We've had other customers that have been coming in recently to talk a lot about their supplies, and they're certainly not related to drinking. So I feel like high quality covers those bases.
Maybe it should be high quality drinking water.
That I don't know, Larry. We just, yeah, it's hard to get away from the fact that we have a lot of responsibilities beyond
But we
drinking
don't,
water.
you don't need the high quality for the other purposes.
Industrial customers may not
they'll
always
treat
feel
their
that
own.
way. I think we're at a bit of a impasse here, so I'm going to suggest we move on, and if necessary, we can take this up again.
So I did want to share back with you the values. We had a good discussion several months ago with you on those values. We also have had a very good working session with staff that led to the initial draft. This is a revised draft set of values. And there's a lot of words here. I'm not going to read them all, but I will read the head statements of each value. So that Marin Water is dedicated to serving customers in the community by upholding these core values. We prioritize health and safety. We are stewards. We're innovative. We are efficient and responsive. We are accountable. We are respectful. We listen and learn, and we work as one. Since these haven't been back in front of you, I thought I'd pause here and just see if there are thoughts or additional observations about these.
I'll leap into the fray here, which is I think these are great. I like them. I think just from a standpoint of the repeated there's I wonder if there just is a formatting we could just say prioritize health and safety. We are committed to stewardship. We are recognize the essential connection between, just as like a formatting thing. It optically is a little hard to keep reading the "we are" part. It's a small change. Otherwise, the content.
I believe that was a suggestion from the directors.
I think
Short memories.
Yes, short memories. I know we sort of made them into action statements, so it's helpful. But I can live with it as is. It's just a minor suggestion.
Any other comments or concerns with this section? Yeah. Jed?
I'm happy for you to take out "we."
Okay. So the goals and objectives. Just a reminder, the 5 that we have discussed. Goal 1, reliable water supply. Goal 2, resilient water system. Goal 3, the watershed stewardship. Goal 4, fiscal responsibility. And Goal 5, organizational excellence. And so I believe now we are going to turn to an update from those staff to report to you the revisions made since we discussed each goal. So a lot of work has gone into listening carefully, trying to adapt and refine. So I think we'll hear from each of those directors.
Oh, it's probably a switch.
Actually, I'll go back.
You can try it. Well, this is fun. Strategic planning is great. It's so important. As Ben said, it is, when you look at it as a junior staff member, it's interesting to be able to see where your work fits in the overall scheme. I know we have a lot of slides, and people tell me that I take a long time to present. So I'm going to try to be really quick and efficient tonight. I see 2 thumbs up, so that's good. So as it was indicated, we're not going to go through each and every bullet. We're going to try to hit the highlights as to what sort of the comments that we heard for each of these items. So goal 1, which I think is the most important goal, of course, reliable water supply. And by that, we mean providing a high quality, reliable, resilient water supply for now and the future. And again, we just had a fantastic water supply update earlier this evening, and this photograph stands in sort of stark relief and kind of why this is such an important goal for us. And it's our commitment to our customer base to make sure that we have water supply available for them when they need it. I think this goal is supported by 5 objectives: reducing potable water reuse, augmenting existing supply, preserving and enhancing existing partnerships, and providing high quality water to our customers. And right out of the gate, objective number 1, as Director Smith indicated earlier this evening, the most important thing for us is reducing potable reuse. And I think just in general, This objective, the board felt that we were kind of on point here. And really the only change, if you look at the red line to this objective, was kind of emphasizing targeting high water users. So I'm going to pause there. I don't know if you've had any thoughts since the last time we talked about this, but the general feeling I got was that the board were okay with this one. Nodding heads, moving on.
I think formatting wise, it should be consistent. I don't understand why there's tabs on that page and
If you're looking at the draft design, there is a lot of formatting work still to be done. It is labeled as a working draft. Apologies, we haven't had too much time to get.
no, it's okay. I just take it as.
Yeah, we will have some serious redlining on that going on.
Okay, objective 2 was augmenting our existing water supply. And again, this refers essentially as the overall kind of caption here states is implementing our strategic water supply roadmap, both short-term and long-term actions and making progress with the idea that we'll meet our water supply demands even through drought, not asking for more than 25% savings from our customer base. The board, I think that what I heard, we heard at the last meeting was that for the short-term actions, the board felt we were in a good spot here with these short-term actions. They were well defined. They had numeric targets and everything seemed to be on point. So if that's okay, I'm going to move on to where I think much of the comments were kind of focused on the second part of this objective. And that was as we think about the medium and longer term actions and what we heard from the board.
Sorry, can you go back to the last one? I do have a thought on this. I think that although water efficiency is a part of our plans, I really think we should put this in our short, medium, and long term. So we do have a target to reduce water demand by 2045. Excuse me, by about a little less than 1% per year. Let's put those water efficiency demand reduction targets in our short, medium, and long-term existing water supply strategic plan. Measure ourselves in the coming years about how we do. So 1% reduction in demand is about 250 acre feet, give or take, I believe. So why not put it up there since we're already targeting it and we're already beating that? Take credit for it. And put it in our targets. And then let's measure ourselves from a water supply perspective about how we're doing from a demand success.
Right. I'm not going to go through all of these. My only thought, I think you know this, but I'm just going to make sure that right. Objective 1 is focused entirely on water efficiency, and it does call out exactly those targets that you were
The
talking
numbers,
about.
okay.
Yeah.
But you can put that 250 acre feet right in there.
We
for your-
could. It seems like it would be double counting it, but we could certainly take a look at that.
I think it's wonderful to highlight it.
Okay, so the second half was where there were last time a few comments around certainly referencing existing work that we'd already done and kind of linking this objective back to particularly to the strategic water supply assessment. And you can see both through the red line and here on this slide that we've done that, identifying targets for the medium and then providing the board an update to achieve the longer term actions and water volumes. So I won't go through all of those, but essentially they're supported by these bullets down that you see here. So any comments on this section?
Put a year around what medium term means. Is this the 5-year
So
objective? What exactly is
the plan that we're discussing tonight is a 5-year strat plan. And so these are our commitments within this time frame.
That's what medium term means?
The planning time frame. Yep.
Paul, thank you for taking the comments into consideration for both desal and recycled water so they have a place to live in here. And I do like the recycled one almost completely checks the box for me. The one thing I would like to see in there is a continued exploration of partnerships with surrounding agencies so that we can hopefully leverage efforts and reduce costs, such as Central Marin Sanitary or Los Colinas Valley. And everything else looks good.
Okay.
Some sort of partnership. It could be general.
I'll second that. I'd also like us to consider putting in here, and maybe it's double counting again. But we have an AMI plan that I do think fits into our water supply strategy.
Mhm.
And although we do have some spending that's expected to begin in 2027 for AMI implementation, and a lot of that is due to our SAP integration or update. I do think that we should start AMI feasibility work between now and then. We don't need SAP in place in order to begin investing in which houses, which areas, where can we begin to roll out AMI. We should do that work now and not wait 3 years to begin spending. We're so far behind other districts around the Bay Area and around the country. I would put that in our medium-term plan, since we're currently planning to start the spending in 3 years. Let's start the spending sooner, I think, so that in 3 years, we can start implementing and rolling it out.
Jed, can I throw some, sorry, Ranjiv.
Yeah, Jed, I think it was at the last ops committee meeting, or I felt like we are initiating a study on AMI feasibility with high water use households.
Well, we are developing an initiative focusing on high water use,
Yeah.
including looking at targeting select ones for AMI meters or flume, some sort of targeting of high water users. The discussion we've had with the board on AMI is the need to get SAP underway. I understand the interest to move on it. We do really have practical resource issues and some kind of workflow issues to understand SAP as we then move into AMI. I think there is an opportunity to look at a bit of overlapping, but I do think some of the core work is really the exact people that are going to be immersed in SAP. So we have IT folks, customer service, conservation. I mean, SAP is all hands. So we can take another look at it. I just want to be very cautious of committing to something that I'm looking at now that feels very difficult. So I'd say, in regards to strategic plan, my thought would be separately to come back to the board and talk again about the timing of SAP and AMI and try and figure it out, and maybe not commit in that way in the strategic plan until we've gone through that exercise.
I'm fully on board with us bringing more thought expertise, as Ranjiv had asked before, about the pros and cons, and that'd be great for us to see that. But I'm not talking about SAP integration technology. I'm just talking about looking at our customer base and where we would start. Who would be the best customers? We're not going to roll it out to all 60,000 customers right away. So let's start figuring out where the low hanging fruit, where it makes a lot of sense, where it would have the most benefit. And if we want to bring in a consultant, spend $25,000, $50,000 to take the burden off the team from doing extra work, to look at how we can be up and running. And when SAP is in place, then maybe it's dual track, but I think they're pretty separate. They can be separate to get us off the ground.
Is that something?
And this is a distraction from this, but I think it does fall in here. And if we don't want to, that's fine, but bringing it back soon would be great.
I think committing to bring it back for discussion at this point, not necessarily getting it in here, but we'll bring it back. I do understand the interest. There's some complications, but there may be a path.
For me, it sounds like, and not to put words in your mouth, but a AMI deployment plan.
Yeah. Again, I think I assumed too much from the presentation we heard from Carrie. I thought there was we were committing to start to look at potential deployment with high water users.
I believe we did put in for a grant And there
Okay.
was something, if that particular grant comes to bear, we could do
Okay.
kind of a rollout with that, another bite.
So there is, as Ben said, the high water user targeted focus look at AMI and how that might be practical for us. But Adrian was just mentioning that in goal 5, and so we've got 80 slides to get through, and it's probably on the last slide, knowing our lack, there is a specific discussion on AMI.
Yeah, my point was just, it also, I think, could benefit from
Oh,
highlighting.
hence
it,
your
but
comment.
I think
And then there was a comment on partnerships. Paul's going to get to
Right.
objective 3, and let's see if that captures or if that would be the place to add that.
Okay, so going on. Objective 3, so to Director Sampson's comments about existing, this is around preserving and enhancing existing partnerships. So the last time you saw this goal, it was very sort of myopically focused, really zooming in on Marin water. And we've subsequently sort of broadened the scope of the goal and regionalized it, and maybe even taken it a step further, as you'll see in the bullets here. The first bullet is unchanged. Of course, Sonoma water is extremely important to us as our 25% of our water supply. But the second 2 bullets were quite specific in things that they referred to, and we've broadened those out. The second one is now regional, and then the third bullet recognizes the role and that we need to leverage the state and federal funding to support these regional water supply projects.
I'll just say, I like the bullets. If you go back 1 slide.
You have to bear with me because there's
Sorry.
a lot of animation.
I know the arrow key sometimes might just take you back faster, but
Does it?
We'll take you through all the bullets.
that statement right there, oh, that's good. The district will strive to ensure continued access and so forth. Doesn't really speak to enhance. It's a statement. I agree. This is important, but that paragraph doesn't speak to it. That speaks to just maintaining. I just feel like I would maybe reword that little paragraph to have aspirational enhancement concepts embedded in the statement that's otherwise just saying we're going to ensure continued access to supplemental supply.
So there's a little bit of a strategic thought in that, right, we share this water supply with a number of others in the region. And if we were to start suggesting that we were going to be enhancing our sort of rights to that water, it might make others a little nervous about our position. And then you might further consider that given that we know going forward, water supplies are going to be constrained, particularly in the summer months. Maintaining access is actually, I think, enhancing in a way our ability to supply our customers. So that's my sort of weasel answer to your point, which I think is a good one. But
I get your sensitivities totally, and I think being thoughtful about that would make sense. But I think you could say that continued access to our supplemental supply and advance, projects that increase water supply reliability regionally, or something like that. That's meant to highlight the benefits that we're not trying to just generate for ourselves, but for the entire region. Anyway, it's a small point. I just felt like that paragraph doesn't speak to the enhanced part.
Yeah, for the benefit of all.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Okay, so
Just to follow up on the partnerships piece, I think the reason I brought it up under the water recycling component of it is that I just don't see a way that it is possible without partnerships specifically for that component of the supply part. And I think that those partnerships are going to be found here in the county first, as opposed to a Sonoma water specific one. So it'd be good to add, for me, I'd like to see added into the previous goal.
Instead of adding a kind of wastewater agency or sanitation agency.
Oh, if we added to
here.
this one, that would be fine too. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely.
okay. And so objective 4, let me go back, sorry. Getting hair trigger here. So objective 4 is high quality water to our customers. And again, here, I think the board felt we were pretty much on point, and main change, I think, was really introducing the notion that we're balancing cost with quality here. And so we have the bullets on the next slide. I think that's it. And most of these are unchanged. We did add the second to last bullet, which is develop and apply lessons learned from other agencies regarding impacts to water quality from wildfires, which is sort of connecting the watershed to water quality. I'm not going to do goal 2.
So the specific changes, now we aren't editing live. We could do that, but the depending how we get through the remainder goals, the changes that I've captured are adding conservation numbers to the short, medium, long term. The regionalizing kind of the partnerships of benefit for all, and adding sanitary agencies. So those three, potentially we'd be at a point where we could adopt the strategic plan with those changes. But at some point, if there's a large number of them, we'll bring it back.
Yeah, I
to
think
the
this is
board.
important enough not to crunch it.
Right. Right.
And I don't see a clock running on
Right.
when we actually take
Absolutely.
action. So I would like to read it more carefully. I know we've been exposed to it and do appreciate that, but a lot of things flow in and out between the ears frequently, and a little more cogitating on it might be good here.
I also think I'd like our community to be able to see a final version that they can look at and have a chance to provide comments. I think this is really important. I know we want to be efficient with time. We really do. We really respect that. But I think I think we are getting very close to a final version, and this could be in effect sort of the version that folks do have a chance to look at with a little bit of time, so that we haven't rushed through this. If we've caught Phil by surprise, I feel like that raises a little bit of a concern for me, because
Monty, I think it's an important consideration. I think if we decide that route, then today we're going to have to talk about a process for managing the input.
Agreed.
So, and with that, consider if there is a viable process for managing what's going to be a very diverse set of opinions on this. So, we essentially, do we start to adjudicate? I don't know. So I'd like to think really carefully about whether we'll be able to establish a process to manage that type of input before we commit to doing it.
Might need to see how much input there is before we worry about that.
I'm good with the presentation that you made and the 3 changes. I don't need more consideration, but if we want to have it, that's fine. But I'm good. I think you did a great job with those 3 changes.
Okay, now I'm on deck here for goal number 2. So again, with efficiency in mind, I'll get this going. So I'm going to really focus on the things where we really looked at and talked about last time to kind of keep things going. So we don't keep things going forward. So pretty good. So the goal number 2 for the resilient water system is for the investment in the maintain of the resilient water system through efficient infrastructure management plan. So this is kind of the main target of this goal. So under the goal overview, this is something we've seen before. There wasn't any changes to this overview, which really talks about, the challenging topography and the work we're going to be doing, how to maintain and modernize the infrastructure, using the rate increases over the next 4 years, and also helping instill the latest best management practices as we move forward with this process. So this is something that hasn't changed since the last time we reviewed this. So
Are these photos being considered to swap in Where the photos we have now?
Um,
I think we're still working through photo
thinking about
selection.
it,
If
okay.
there's something in particular you'd like to see, you can certainly
No,
share
but
that
not
with
so
me
much that
offline.
as a comment about the photo that's in here. I think we should blur out things like Majori and Gelati on the guy's back and probably Caterpillar
Yeah.
too.
The photos that are in the PowerPoint are not the same ones that we're using for the design, but noted on that point about that, for sure.
Just, you know,
Absolutely.
mhm. Okay. So overall, the first objective number one, we had general agreement last time we met and talked about this with only minor comments. So I'm just going to kind of go through real quick. So for this particular slide in the statement, there was only minor change regarding wording of changing enhanced to strengthen. So that's a real minor change that's been incorporated in here to help kind of provide better content to this objective. Under the second goal, you just go ahead and get them all. So this goal also had a similar comment to before with a word changing on the second bullet for removing enhance and changing it by adding the review for greater robustness and transparency with this goal to kind of provide better clarity. And in addition, staff also included in the fourth bullet the administration building, corporation yard, and watershed facilities because it was missing in the last time I presented this. So this provides more clarity and guidance as we're going forward. So that way it kind of makes things clear on this. And on to the second, let me just get them all. And again, in this set of bullet points here, there was a minor comment by the board just on wording again for the first and third bullets about swapping out opportunities to need. So other than that, everything is exactly the same as we previously discussed. Which leads me into the second objective for capital planning. Again, last time we reviewed this, there was also minor comments on this one, so I'm just going to briefly go through and get to the ones where we had a little bit more commentary on that one. So there was no change in this particular statement. So here we did have a few board comments here regarding, adding future planning to the first bullet. So the future planning effort is driven by the objective number one in the condition assessment, which is captured within the bullet. So that's kind of really where the future planning goes and starts at the first state of the condition assessment. Another comment we received was regarding addressing water quality issues at our treatment plants. And that is actually a component that will be evaluated in the first objective with the condition assessment of the treatment plant. So we will capture that comment and statement within that section. So that'll be covered in objective number one. There was also comment regarding lead pipe investigation and replacement within this objective. And this is really a regulatory compliance issue that's captured in goal number one. But my knowledge and understanding is that the district has looked at lead pipe and infrastructure in our area, and we haven't found any of that or that being a problem here. So it's looking pretty promising as far as not having that issue here in the district with our infrastructure.
Yeah, I don't think we're old enough.
No. So that leads us into objective number 3, and I'm really doing good on efficiency tonight. So this is for the capital project delivery. And here again, we had pretty good general consensus last time we talked about this, and only minor comments. First in this statement, there was just a general comment regarding changing, making efficient use to maximizing staff time. So that's reflected here in this statement for this objective. Okay. And on this set of bullets, we did receive a comment regarding assessing staff needs, which is pertinent to the first bullet point here. So we did make modifications to this first bullet by assessing resource needs to meet the increased capital improvement program as we move forward. And that's the only change that we made on this slide. And again, here we also had real minor comments on the third bullet regarding just word changes from strive to achieve to kind of provide a better, the way it reads better for this bullet here. And on to objective number 4. Again, this is the fourth objective for the operations and maintenance of our system. There wasn't any comment on this particular statement, so it's the same as before. Here we did have a few comments. So here we did have a handful of comments here regarding programs that incentivize innovation and that involve more ensuring that the staff is happy, and programs to send staff to AWWA conferences and competitions. So those are all great comments, and those are comments that are better captured under goal number 5. And were not included within this section of the strategic plan to kind of help minimize duplicative efforts within the strategic plan itself. Good comments, but just captured elsewhere. And then we also did receive another additional comments regarding operating of the system and maintaining of the system, which we did include in the first bullet point to cover that, to ensure effective operations and maintenance of our systems, since it wasn't really clearly spelled out there before. And on to energy number planning. So we had a little bit more discussion in this one. So, but as far as this first opening statement, there wasn't a real change to that. So let me go to this one right here. Okay. So here we did have a series of comments here. So first one was regarding gas and battery powered vehicles. So that's a comment that's really covered under the first bullet about fleet vehicle regulatory changes as far as electrical vehicles is concerned. So that's addressed in that first bullet there. And also the next handful of comments regarding providing more goals for carbon neutrality, and also looking at folding carbon savings into projects as we come through with them. So as a result, we added bullet number 3 to engage in a discussion with the board on carbon neutrality to establish appropriate goals, policies, and directions. So that'll help us move forward as we start getting into the CIP. So staff will be engaging the board as we move forward with this to kind of help tackle that comment.
I made a lot of noise about this
That's
last time,
perfectly fine.
Alex, and I kind of want to apologize a little for that approach. Monty and Jed, I think, suggested what we have here, which I think is more appropriate. So thanks.
Perfect, no problem.
How about one small change, maybe meet or exceed new regulatory changes? I don't know that we need to have a goal or objective to just barely meet it.
For the first bullet point?
Yep.
Meet or exceed, okay. Okay, perfect. And you may notice that I did have a bullet point there before about marine clean energy and 100% renewable. So the district has been 100% renewable on marine clean energy since July of 2017. So we are at the max peak. All our electrical use is 100% clean renewable energy. And this item was presented back in 2016 by staff. And interesting piece of information is Marine Clean Energy has estimated that by switching over to 100% renewable, the district is actually reducing greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 2,800 metric tons. So that's a pretty good reduction in greenhouse emissions by our doing that part per year.
Yeah. Although we do truck in petrol to Suluhuli, so we're not 100%.
Correct. But at least as far as our consumption for our pump stations, that's 100% electric.
It's a good statistic to put somewhere on our webpage.
Yeah. So that rolls us right around third base to the home stretch for objective number 6 for the emergency response. Again, this one only had minor comments last time we talked about it. So again, the opening statement regarding that we have here, there was any changes to that. Okay. And in this one right here, the comment we did receive was to ensure that our emergency operations center was integrated into strategic plan to make sure that we were ready in the event of emergency. So as a result, we added the second bullet to conduct a minimum of 2 annual tabletop exercises involving the district's emergency operations center, just to ensure that we're ready during an emergency. So that's how we address that comment. And wrapping up is this last slide. So we did have a few comments here. One just regarding incorporating other agencies into the emergency response. So bullet number 1 kind of covers that with the district's participation into Marin County's OES training exercises that they do. So that's how we're going to get that integration with other agencies for preparedness response. And then finally, we did have question regarding adding a bullet to assess and reduce risk. So we did add the third bullet to continue assessing and identifying opportunities to reduce risk throughout the district. So we've heard and replied to all the comments that we were received last time we were here. So with that, that wraps this up. So I'm open for questions, concerns, suggestions.
Board comments?
Alex, super happy to have you at the helm.
Thank you.
Nicely done. Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the incorporation of those comments on this last objective here. And just it reinforces the need that, you know, anything that's going to happen to our district or our watershed is going to affect so many jurisdictions around us, and having those all on the same page, drawing from a much bigger pool of resources can be very important. So thank you for adding that in.
Absolutely. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Alex.
Absolutely.
Sean, are you officially director Horn now?
I don't know if it's before or after the presentation. So good evening, board members. We're going to present the edits that we made to the watershed stewardship section. I'll move on to what we reviewed with you last time. We heard that we needed to place the watershed central with water supply, and we used some classic district language here to emphasize the fact that the watershed provides 75% of the drinking water for Marin, and tightened up the language generally with this statement. So that was the only edit to the overview section. These were the 4 components: creek restoration, watershed resiliency to wildfire, stewardship, recreation, and facilities. Creek restoration, we heard that we wanted to make sure that watershed lands were included in this restoration component. However, recognizing that this was really the focus on Lagunitas Creek in this particular objective. So the edits that we made here specifically related to providing minor improvements to how many kind of just 13 sites would be implemented as part of our Lagunitas Creek restoration plan. There'd be more details, you know, work plan around kind of habitat improved for each segment of restoration that we do. We also wanted to capture some language around collaborating with regional working groups, specifically around research efforts and how we could share some of the methods developed for fisheries monitoring and restoration here. So we added that in the last bullet point. And those were the kind of 2 major changes to this particular objective, sub-objective.
I would be just a couple quick thoughts. I appreciate a lot of the specificity, Sean, that you added in here. It's really quite helpful. The 13 restoration sites, is it there's a chance that we might be able to get to more than 13 sites? Is it?
No, so the watershed enhancement plan that we have has 13 sites.
It's just fit. It's okay. It's sort of the, like, if we can go for 14, right, why not? Right. You know, one thing that I'm sort of chagrined that I didn't capture here and is that we don't actually talk about creek restoration as enabling recovery of our coho salmon populations. And I hate to add or suggest adding a bullet, and I would even trust you to come up with a good bullet, but is that we don't mention anything in here that the part of the reason why we're part of the goal of our work in Lagunitas Creek is to recover coho populations and steelhead populations. And it's so important to what we do. It's so exciting to our community, the work that we do, our fish bulletins and everything that we draw attention to, and yet we're not mentioning it as an objective. So I would really encourage that.
Can you go back to the prior slide, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're going to find in all of these watershed ones is that there's a lot of plans referenced, and this particular one is referencing this Lagunitas Creek Stewardship Plan, which goes into extensive detail about.
I think on here, we could potentially add something about enhancing, because we say the biological resources, we could say, and notably the coho. We could take a look at this, I think, and get what you're looking for.
I think
There's a lot of places and
Yeah,
ways that
yeah,
it could
yeah.
be. I just think that
Yep.
that when is recognizing that we are home to one of the most important populations of coho salmon along the north coast, and that what we're doing is really important toward actually recovering these fish and getting them off the endangered species list.
Yeah, there's some good language in the Lagunitas stewardship plan that we can just grab and bring into this statement.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I'll say it's also steelhead and freshwater shrimp. That we
Yes,
want.
I know. I don't mean to be overly coho centric.
The next one is our watershed resiliency to wildfire. We changed the title. That was a good comment. And then there was no additional changes to this intro statement. For the sub bullets in this, we heard that there's really a lot of regional planning going on. And so we included that in here, recognizing that regional planning and that collaboration will be key to helping us get grant funding and also advancing priority projects within Marin County to help us kind of work collaboratively and extensively to address this issue. So that was the bulk of the change for this section. Stewardship, we didn't make any changes to the intro statement. For the sub bullets, we've got, this is where we discussed regional research and having that included in here. So we built that into it. We also highlighted collaboration with the Federated Indians of Creighton Rancheria, which is a federally recognized tribe, the importance of that. And also created a new bullet, which is that third one, which kind of builds off of those collaborative planning efforts to say that we'll evaluate opportunities for integrating the regional restoration and stewardship priorities that are coming out of those planning efforts. I'm trying to capture the kind of action-oriented component of it. And then we had added the final bullet point, which is about advancing natural resource interpretation. We heard that we really wanted to find ways to help articulate and convey the importance of the watershed and that message, and help people connect with the watershed on and off the on and off the watershed. So finding interpretive offerings that we could develop. With recreation, we made one addition to the intro. It's the second sentence. It's about balancing watershed visitation with water quality protection. For the sub bullets, we made some improvements to how we were thinking about our multi-benefit trail improvements. We heard that we wanted to have kind of more general language around addressing aging infrastructure. Mother Nature's helped us in the last couple of weeks with a couple of bridges that we're now rebuilding. So we're on and off to the races on that one. And then we added a little bit of direct language around habitat restoration in that final bullet point, just kind of emphasizing that when we do these trail restoration planning efforts, we're really looking at habitat restoration opportunities in tandem.
Sean, sorry to go backwards to that previous statement, the sentence that you added. So if you go back one more, I'm not sure watershed visitation will be balanced with water quality protection. I'm not sure I understand what that means.
Yeah, that's really in line with what our current roads and trails plan is developed around, kind of emphasizing the best management practices that we can apply to reduce erosion on trails and roads that we understand is a result of human activity and people being on the landscape.
So maybe what we're not, I'm still not sure what balance will be balanced with. I think we want to be watershed visitation will be managed to protect water quality, to ensure water quality protection and connecting visitors, yada, yada.
Okay.
I think it just makes it a little bit more clear. We're going to take it. We're going to address it as it happens.
So the final one we had was facilities. We didn't make any changes to the intro statement. And for the bullets, we had some good discussion around how we could complete an update to the roads and trails plan rather than just advancing. So we, added kind of more action statement to that second bullet. And then we also heard some good discussion around ranger residents and what we could do in the 5-year timeline for this. So we revised that final bullet to say we'd maintain existing watershed housing and evaluate opportunities for seasonal housing to remove barriers for working in Marin. And I think that kind of captured what we heard in those discussions. And then we also, in that third bullet, integrate watershed facilities into the facilities master planning process, right? We heard from Alex about that process, and we're integrating a review of the Sky Oaks headquarters and then also exploring opportunities for an environmental education facility or visitor infrastructure outdoors. Those were all the watershed objectives. Anything you want to review or comment on?
Thank you, Sean.
Good evening, directors. My name is Brett Uppendahl. I'm the finance director here, and I'm going to be going through goal 4 here, which is fiscal responsibility. Before I get going too far, I did want to thank Adrian here for keeping us all online and on task over the last 6 months and for making it easy for us to bring you these final products. So thank you, Adrian. The overall goal of fiscal responsibility at the district here is to judiciously manage customer revenue and other financial resources for operating, maintaining, and upgrading the water system today and in preparation for the future. The overview here, I won't read all the words here, but I think the idea is you know, we've been entrusted with public funds. As a public agency, we reinvest all of our funds back into the water district. And as said in the previous slide, you know, for now and for in the future. So that's the balance we're trying to strike in all of these goals here, making it through the day and the year and also planning for the future. And I think at the bottom there, it also talks about the fact that we are more of a slow growth organization and county here. And so we need to prioritize financial stability, you know, over the long term by focusing both on the revenue side and the expense side with cost effectiveness and cost effective operations. The 5 goals here, financial stability, fair, equitable, and proportional rates, cost-effective business processes, outside funding to reduce financial impacts on our ratepayers, and financial transparency. I'll go through which of those were changed or modified from the first draft. Here, number 1, financial stability. So under this goal, we don't have a lot of changes, so I'll just remind the board where we're at here. I think most of these are pretty self-explanatory. Establish stabilization reserves to kind of manage that short-term, long-term fluctuation in annual revenues. Supporting our long-term capital program to make sure we're staying the course and really making investments in the right areas. And then also regularly updating our fees, rents, and other non-rate revenues. So we get a lot of attention for our rate structure and the rates that customers pay, but we also do have other revenue sources that need to maintain pace with inflation over time. So we're not kind of eroding the value of those other sources. So those are the 3 kind of core financial stability goals, and we don't have any changes to these from the first presentation. Number 2 here, objective 2, fair, equitable, and proportional rates. The main change here is adding the word equitable into the overall title of this to make sure that under the legal provisions of 218, we're checking our boxes there, but we're also doing everything we can to make sure they're fair and equitable within our district here, within the service area. I'll go ahead and pull these down here. So the main change we have to these sub bullets here, it comes under that idea of equitable, and it's the second sub bullet there, which is our low income program. And so I think in the last version, we expanded it here to say we want to evaluate our overall program to take a more holistic look at it and identify strategies to ensure that qualified customers are enrolled. And I think the nuance here is that we do have a limit because our low income program is funded by our non-rate revenues. So we can't just say we're going to expand it forever. We can get better at what we do. We can target customers better. We can make sure people are aware of the benefits associated with our program. But we do have a cap on it eventually. So we want to make sure we're just doing the best we can with what we have in this area.
These are great changes. I appreciate the focus. Thank you.
Cost-effective business processes. Again, many of these are kind of self-explanatory, and we didn't get a lot of recommended changes here. We talked earlier about making sure we have our SAP planning system there to get the most amount out of the data that we do have. We do get a lot of really good data in our current system. We want to make sure that staff today and in the future can access it and use it to improve the district's operations. Leveraging external resources is covered more under the next bullet, but we want to always make sure we're being cost-effective there. Minimizing the cost of our financing by maintaining a very high credit rating kind of gets into our overall financial operations. And then we do want to make sure we are taking advantage of technology and using more online and paperless transactions for the environment as well, but also to cut costs. And then the last bullet there is just more for, making sure that all of our application processes, that we're not having customers having to wait to hear back from us, then we can turn them around quickly within our customer service department. Objective 4 here, we do have some changes here as well. And again, this is more for clarity purposes. We did want to more specifically say we want to maintain or engage in outside funding or pursue outside funding opportunities to reduce the financial impact on ratepayers. If you recall, the last time we presented these, we're talking more broadly about reducing financial impact on ratepayers, when most of the bullets really are finding other ways outside of our actual ratepayer base with which to do that. So we just basically we're kind of being more clear about what we're trying to do in these 5 bullets, which is pursuing WRDA funding there on the top, grant funding, using bond funding. We added the word prudently there to prudently use bond funding. So not just whenever we need it, but make sure we have a good plan for it. And we're using it for the highest and best purposes. Getting grants from federal and state agencies, using WIFIA financing when it matches our project cycles, and also leveraging our regional partnerships to increase any kind of state or federal funding opportunities. And then finally, financial transparency here. Again, I think these are relatively straightforward, and we don't have any changes from the last meeting. So again, we're going to improve our online tools for customers to understand their bill, conduct biannual reviews of our fiscal policies, which we've started doing already, publish quarterly financial summaries to make sure the public has a chance to look at our books and make sure we're spending our money where it's expected, conducting internal and external financial audits, and also proactively communicating to our customers about when we do a good job in the other areas, such as grant applications and investments in our infrastructure, so that they are well aware of the financial prudence that we're applying to all of our operations. So that is it for my financial responsibility goals. I'm happy to take any comments.
Board comments?
I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I wonder if we would consider having some sort of, I don't know if it's a policy or thought process or objective to look at rate setting in the future and to encourage the organization to be maybe a little bit more steady in its rate increases. It seems like raising rates obviously is unpopular on any level. And that if you look at the history, it's kind of pretty dramatic shifts. I'd love to see us have a much more steady, thoughtful, balanced approach than one where don't raise rates and then have a huge catch up and put people in a bind. And I don't know if that belongs here or where it might belong, or if other people have thoughts about it, but it might save some turmoil for our customer base to not be shocked, and for our board to have more natural decision making in the future.
Yeah. So I fully agree with you, and I would say that I think we capture that idea here in the very first objective, which is financial stability. And I think as we went through the rate setting process, we talked about we're trying to avoid those shocks in the long term. So the stabilization reserves that you see there, that really is the main mechanical way we can do that, to make sure that in certain times we're filling up those buckets, so that if we come on short times, we can rely on our reserves to mitigate that kind of annual rate swing. So that would be how we do it. But I think that what you're saying there is to be more clear about that's why we're doing it.
Objective 1, first bullet.
Yeah. But I think we can be more clear, right? Again,
Yeah,
we can be clear about it, so we can update that.
Monty?
All good.
Matt? Thanks a lot, Brett.
Thank you.
All right, final goal, goal 5, organizational excellence. So the goal statement has not changed since the last time the board saw this: support and sustain an innovative organization that lives by its values, leads by example, delivers valued benefits for its customers, and is regarded as an employer of choice. The overview, it is summarized here. It's a little longer in the actual full plan, but that also has not changed at all. This goal is really about our internal operations, improving staff development, efficiencies, engaging in the water industry, and enhancing customer services. We have not changed the 4 objectives that are defined here on this slide. And so objective 1, this is the objective statement. It has not changed since the prior review. focused on our organizational culture and value. And then for the action items for objective 1, last time I was in front of you, I did hear interest in collaborating with local college campuses for recruitment opportunities. And so we did address that by expanding bullet 2 to include partnering with local colleges and trade schools, in addition to the partnerships with community-based organizations. And then we also heard that there was interest in seeing the purpose and outcome of our diversity, equity, and inclusion training defined within the DEI training focused action item. And so on bullet 4 on the slide, that was expanded to state the intent of that training program, which is that language to help foster a sense of belonging across the workplace. And continuing with objective 1, we did hear that the board wanted to ensure the district's employee training program includes a focus on internal career development. And so we expanded bullet 1 on this slide, which covers employee training, to include establishment of an internal career track training to support career advancement. Still continuing on objective 1. There was interest in the last meeting where we discussed this goal and having more specific timing around the implementation of the staff engagement survey. So for bullet 1 on this slide, it's been updated to state that the next engagement survey will happen in this year in 2024. And then we also had heard interest in training for oncoming board members on district ethics, policies, and procedures. Definitely agree this is an important action item and good feedback on our process going forward for future onboardings. But we didn't feel that it seemed appropriate to put it in the strategic plan, though is something that the district intends to do as we go forward with future board member onboardings. I can pause there for a second. Good. Okay. Objective 2, the objective statement has not changed since the board last saw this goal. And then there were no notable changes on these first 3 goals. And then on continuing with objective 2, focused on the customer experience. So we did hear interest from the board in creating public relations campaigns that bring visibility to the district's service value, creative taglines, ways you can incorporate that into our ongoing communications plans. And we also heard interest from the board in connecting with our customers more through volunteerism, and also heard interest in making sure that we were communicating out the progress we were making on our water supply roadmap efforts. And so in reviewing this goal and going back through everything later, it felt like it best fit in the second bullet on this slide. And so I broadened that to capture all 3 of those elements. That bullet's really focused on our storytelling efforts, using new communications and creative ways to new technologies and creative ways to reach our customers. And it felt like that was a right fit for that. And then we also heard from the board interest in developing virtual tours of our treatment plants and tours of the watershed. So that could be available for classrooms that maybe aren't able to make the field trips out to those facilities. And then we had also heard interest around developing educational resources for teachers to use in the classroom. And so I did expand bullet 3 to capture both of those elements. This objective statement for industry engagement, growth, and leadership objective did not change since the last time the board has seen it.
Adrian, sorry, I'm
Yeah.
a little bit slow just on customer experience.
Yes, sorry, I should have paused.
You know, I don't know that we really spoke about this previously, but when we were reviewing this objective, but you know, we have talked about community engagement by staff engagement with partner agencies, city councils, that sort of thing. I don't know if that merits a call out here, but
Yeah, we can certainly
something
add that
to
in.
consider. From the little bit I've seen, when staff do go out and make an effort to engage with staff and or electeds and others, it seems like a really positive experience to me. So just something to consider.
Any other comments? All right, so action items for objective 4 or objective 3. I did hear at the last meeting, the board was interested in making sure we're very intentional with our participation in professional development opportunities. And so not only engaging in these networks, but making sure that we're bringing back lessons learned so that we can apply them here in the district. And so I have expanded bullet 1 to capture that. No changes to the objective statement for technology, innovation, and process improvements. Objective 4. Under the action items, we did hear interest from the board in expanding our action item on partnering with the academic world to also include supporting use of the watershed for research opportunities. And so we did expand the 4th bullet on the slide to capture this. And then there were no changes on these final action items on objective 4. I'll pause there. That's it.
Board comments, discussion on the last objective. It's interesting, Adrian. We should go back and it feels like the amount of red ink diminishes as we get to the end of the process, right?
Well, we took these things separately. So
I know. That's
actually,
not fair.
I get where you're going, but we, you know,
Some of us had longer to hear and absorb the comments and find
thought
in
we
our
were coming,
areas.
yeah.
Well, good. Sorry, I think maybe if there are just any overall comments that board members want to make or discussion points that we haven't fully addressed before opening it up for public comment.
Yeah, we do actually have a couple more slides on
Okay.
next steps.
Okay.
So I can do those before you go into goals discussion. Yeah, so we did want to touch on our progress reporting moving forward for the strategic plan and how we will report out how things are going with advancement of the action items within the strategic plan. So we have 5 strategic goals. We've just gone through all of them, a total of 24 objectives that set the direction and priorities for the next 5 years, and tucked into all those is 113 action items. Those represent our best understanding today of what's going to be needed to really make progress on each of the 5 goals. And we emphasize the word today because we do know with a number of the areas in the goals, there's a lot that's going to be learned and things that are going to change and evolve as we go through this process over the next 5 years. And so we are going to use an adaptive management approach for reporting our progress and adjusting our action plans to advance the goals. And then planning, managing, and reporting for each goal will be accomplished through annual work plans. The board will recall our board retreat last year. Each of the divisions had annual work plans that were presented to the board. This year, those will be presented by goal. So we'll have annual work plans for each of the 5 goals, and staff will work together to put those together. And each year we'll be identifying what action items we're taking on for that coming year. We will use the board retreat as that time to discuss and review those work plans with the board for this first year. That's March 14th. And then during the annual board retreats going forward, staff will review on and report on a number of items related to each goal. So that'll be progress and accomplishments on the objectives and actions identified, any learnings and innovations from the previous year that might cause some changes and adjustments to some of our action items going forward, assessment of the long-term progress towards the goal, adjustments and changes, as I mentioned, based on changing circumstances, and then our planned actions, any resource needs and partnerships for the coming year. And then, so once a year, we'll do that process as it relates to the strategic plan overall. And then to report out on our progress on the annual work plans for each of the 5 goals. We'll provide quarterly updates that will be done during regular board meetings to address progress. And I think now that covers it. Yes.
Great. Thank you, Adrian. Board comments, Monty, I'll start on this side.
I get to start off by saying thank you. I mean, this was a lot of work over a lot of sessions and a lot of listening to comments. I think you folks, everybody did a really great job at hearing the intent of what we wanted. We weren't wordsmithing, and so it took particular attention to understanding the comments and weaving them in. And I think did a great job. And I think that what we have here is a really significant, well, I don't want to say improvement. I think it's relevant to the challenges and the goals that we are setting ambitiously with the board that is today. So thank you for all the great work to all the staff.
Matt?
Great. To echo the thank you right off the bat, this has been a really big lift, a very heavy lift. And I'd like to start by just to further strengthen the importance of this. Thank you to the fellow board members, specifically Jed, for bringing this as a priority for the district as we get going, and Ben for supporting it, and then Adrian for taking the reins, along with Charles, your assistance for this. I've been through a few of these now, and the rollout and the way this went was very smooth. And the deliverable we see tonight is something that I think makes sense and is really inclusive of not only the board members' thoughts, but the process itself has been very transparent. I mean, I don't think we're going to be taking this much time on that many items over the course of a year. And for 8 meetings, in addition to all the offline work that's being done, and then one more revision from tonight, shows hopefully that the importance of this document for not only staff, but also for our customers themselves. Then Paul, Alex, Sean, and Brett, and Adrian too, for your work on each individual goal to make those, and then to actually incorporate all the board members' comments and to make a well-rounded document is appreciated. With all this work, hopefully it's a pretty clear guiding document for staff, and along with those updates, to be interesting to consider when we start moving things forward, specifically with staff reports and things like that to board, to tie in as a connection, or how does this relate to the strategic plan as we're making our decisions, so that every time we're doing it, we're thinking back to this important document saying, are we still moving in the right direction? I think that's important too. Other than that, I'm hoping we can approve this here shortly. If not tonight, the next time we see it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Jed?
Yeah, I believe this is the first strategic plan that Marin Water will hopefully approve shortly in many, many years. And so I commend the staff, the board, for taking this on. It's not an insignificant process. It's not easy, but it's super important. What you've done is engage with a full set of stakeholders at Marin Water, the leadership team, the staff, dozens of line workers, our customers, and the board. It's always hard for folks to put a stake in the ground and make commitments like you have done and we are putting forward. So I congratulate this team for making these bold steps and committing to the future of Marin. The strategic plan is not an insignificant feat. I believe this is tremendous work, well done, and it will help set our agency up for many, many years to come.
Thanks, Jed. Larry?
Thank you. Have a little experience now with herding cats. We're a interesting group to herd, and I appreciate your patience in doing that. Thanks again.
Yeah, I think, Adrian, I suspect we and the public only see the tip of the iceberg, or the iceberg, right? And not everything that goes on behind it. But yeah, my thanks as well. I did try to look back on previous, efforts to develop strategic plans. And, I think I was struck by how sometimes events such as major droughts can so quickly overtake plans. And I bring that up because I think it speaks very much to your point about evaluating progress on an ongoing basis and adapting and iterating so that we're remaining current with the events that we're facing. I really appreciate that part of this. I look forward to translating the strategic plan into the annual plan now that will be coming up in our board retreat. And then I look forward to our efforts to monitor progress. So yeah, thanks to everybody, all staff for this effort. I think I know we want to open this up for public comment, but I'd like to get a sense of the board as to whether we feel ready to take this to approve. I know, Larry, you asked for an opportunity to read it through one more time. Just like to, yeah, Ben, do you want to say something?
Yeah, from that discussion, my thought would be that we make the changes that we discussed tonight, pretty straightforward changes. Get that off to the board, give you some time to get us comments. So if a week is good, something like that. And then based on those comments or lack thereof, we'll bring the final document for adoption.
Are we good with that? I think that sounds good. Monty, I also want to come back to your thought on getting some, of our public input onto this.
Well, and thank you. I think it's always important, and I know that this document has been up as part of a board packet, and I think taking this extra time to just make it available would be a good move. So if that works for everybody else, I think I genuinely think that we have had public process all along the way, so this isn't the only time that folks have had a chance to comment on this. I think that this is there's perfect is the enemy of the good. This is very, very good. I think I would be comfortable with it going forward today, but I think taking that a little bit extra time is a good process.
Great. And as you've noted, it is now available for anybody that's interested. I don't know, Adrian, if it's viable to put a note on our website saying that our draft plan is available for comment, if that point out where it is. That may be taking things too far.
That's good.
So something to consider. Okay, with that, Terry, we'll open it up to public comment.
Yes, we have at least about 5 so far. The first 3, Ed Jameson, Wendy Kellens, and Larry Minikis. Go ahead, Mr. Jameson.
Yes, thanks. This was really well done. On the beginning mission statement for reliable water supply, we need water for a lot more than just drinking. As the draft proposed, I believe the words high quality water nails it. On goal 4, fiscal responsibility, I agree with Director Smith about the importance of having regular, thoughtful reviews of MMWD's rates. Related to subjects covered tonight, on AMI, the board really does need to hear a report on why East Bay Mud stopped its rollout of AMI last February when they determined that it just doesn't pay out, at least for them. And related to objective 4 on water quality, I believe a near-term report to the board on possible ozone treatment would be desirable, as Director Russell has several times suggested. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kellens.
Yes, Wendy Kellens, Sustainable Marin. This is a very thorough document, and I can see that a tremendous amount of work went into it. So I congratulate staff and consultants on and the board on all the work that's gone into this. I especially like to see that there's going to be even more work on energy reductions. MMWD is one of the high users of energy in the county, and everything you can do to reduce your energy use helps all of us. I have an uncomfortable feeling about putting in the goal of reducing at 1% a year, only because I don't think 1% a year is good enough. And I would like to see that increased with more information and more aggressive approaches. So that's something that I have mixed feelings about. I think it's important to show that you're making progress, but at the same time, I would like to see much more progress made, especially in the earlier years. One of the things that I noted is that there's nothing in there about partnerships with as far as water efficiency. There's partnerships in other parts of the document, but partnerships as far as working with nonprofits and also working with the cities as far as what they can do in implementing policies that can reduce water use, and also what they can do to help improve the outreach to their own communities on conservation. And I think that would be something that if some of that wording could be put into it, that would be very helpful. And then as far as the goal of getting AMI in 2027 and the thought of, who's the first, I can see why you'd want to go for the highest water users first. But from everything I've been learning from you and your staff, the highest water users are actually the toughest nut to crack as far as getting them to reduce their use, no matter how much information you give them. Maybe it would be better to target more of the middle income people who actually have something to gain through reduction and getting more information about what their usage is. So that's a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Larry Minikis, please.
Yes, good evening. I'd just like to acknowledge Director Sampson's earlier remarks in regard to the amount of work that has gone into this, the thought and care. He very much encapsulated my own thoughts and feelings about this, and just want to acknowledge that this has been a very carefully thought out process. It's going in a great direction. The idea of giving it just a little extra time for additional input is a very wise choice, and appreciate everything that has led to this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next three speakers are Jack Kay, Phil Sauter, and Marilyn Price. Go ahead, sir.
I had a question, and that is, has MMWD reevaluated the public opinion about increasing the water supply ever since the rate increases were implemented? Because the public opinion may change and become more focused on rates and less on supply in response to this first or however many rate increases there have been.
Can I respond to that? And
We don't respond.
yeah, but we're also we take public comments on the topic at hand right now. So that's the first consideration, Jack. And then just so we're speaking specifically about our strategic plan at the moment. And so
Only this.
that's right. So the time for public comments on non-agendized items is actually at the beginning of meetings.
Okay.
Thanks. But Jack, and we don't really have the ability to dialogue on these things in the meetings, but I'm sure if you come in, happy to discuss this, outside of the meeting.
Yeah,
any of us.
The reason we can't comment, Jack, is it's not on the agenda.
Okay.
So we can only discuss agendized items. So that's why we don't respond. Even in the public comment section, we don't respond because we take it in and you will get an answer, but not in the meeting.
Okay, I just thought that was somewhat on topic because there was discussion about supply increase.
That's cool, man.
Thank you. Mr. Phil Sauter and then Marilyn Price.
Thanks for the updated presentation. I was glad to see a specific goal of 800 acre feet of potable water reduction right up front with a specific goal of reaching it by 2030. If my math is right, that's a daily reduction of 750,000 gallons a day. And while I'll continue to advocate for a number closer to 4 million gallons a day, I'm glad to see we have a quantitative starting point for future discussions. I also appreciated the distinctions being made between potable water and non-potable water, as the former is what every one of our customers is interested in, and the latter is something that many fewer customers are interested in, although the quantities they deal in may be significant. Which leads to the other distinction I was glad to see referred to in the strategic plan, the fact that not all customers are identical and that targeted goals and programs can be developed according to the different ways that customers use the product and the different behaviors that will need to be addressed. As with any plan that extends 5 years into the future, I was glad to see checkpoints along the way to formally revisit the plan and see if our results are tracking with our stated objectives. The public probably won't follow along with all the details that go into creating and implementing a plan like this, and I wondered about a simple way to communicate to our customers what we intended to do and what we're actually doing. One idea I thought of was creating a sort of a doomsday clock as a shorthand way of letting customers know how we're doing. I was surprised to hear a couple of years ago that we may have only a 2-year supply of water in our reservoirs, whereas a reasonable and necessary target is closer to 4 years. It might be a conversation starter for staff to create such a doomsday clock as a way to track, say on a quarterly basis, how we're moving toward our objective of providing reliable, drought-proof supply of potable water. A clock that measures our progress as it moves from 2 years to 4 years supply would be a symbol we can all understand and let us either stick with the plan or make necessary changes to reach our goal of a 4-year supply of drinking water. I'm going to go a little bit off script by saying the most impactful moment that I've had in the last couple of years, or the second most, was a couple of years ago when Director Smith said we only had about 12 or 2 years worth of water. And tonight I heard someone say, I think that we may have only 18 months when we actually need 4 years worth of water. When I hear the heavyweight discussion given to commercial customers or those who want a wet green lawn, I have to scratch my head and say, who's representing the 190,000 of us who really need the high quality potable water that only this district can provide? I don't think it's a tug of war. I don't think we have to decide one or the other. We have yet to look seriously, I believe, at non-potable water supply for non-potable water users. And if you want to get folks really hepped up on this.
Thank you, Mr. Sauter.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Sauter. The next two, Marilyn Price and 1402. Go ahead, Ms. Price.
Yes, well, and I hope I'm pertinent to your strategic plan, which is excellent. And I know there are a lot of work, and thank you for that. One thought I had, and again, I hope I'm on point to this. I really wanted to mention this when you were talking about how much water we had available now, but I didn't hear a call for public comment. But I'm wondering if I don't see a lot of comparison with other communities who maybe, and I'm sure there are, who are doing better than Marin, that we can see comparison and even, challenge ourselves to meet their conservation goals, particularly in terms of conservation is what my concern is. And if that with more public announcement, like Phil was mentioning the doomsday clock, things like that really wake up the public that we have to do this on an ongoing basis, whether we have the water or not. So just, more education and emphasis on that aspect of all the excellent work you're doing. I noticed like PG&E now, I'm getting emails from them all the time. They're in the business to sell energy, but they're now continually talking to their customers about how they conserve and giving them tips. And I don't know that I see MMWD doing as much as that. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And 1402, please.
James Holmes, Larkspur. Regarding Goal 1, reliable water supply, objective number 2, I am concerned that the added red line language undermines the very specific, important bulletproof I think it's the 5th bullet point that says, quote, select the preferred local storage improvement project alternative and begin the next steps, unquote. That's vital, and it should be done before 5 years. However, the added precatory language at the outset, redlined language at the outset of the goal, makes it seem like that goal will not even be finalized, let alone realized in 5 years, because the language says that the 5-year goal is merely to, quote, provide an update for achieving the roadmap's longer-term goal of specific numerical increase in supply. Those are somewhat contradictory, and I would urge that the very much weaker language be removed or changed to make it consistent with the all-important need to select the preferred local storage improvement project and begin the next steps. And really, that process should be effectuated well before the end of 5 years, because it is so important. But there should not be any language that weakens it in the preceding text of the goal. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further speakers.
Okay, then I think we move to the last item on our agenda, which is future board and committee meetings and the related agenda items.
Yes, good evening. Our next meeting is actually a committee meeting, and it's this Thursday. It's the Finance and Administration Committee meeting slash special meeting of the Board of Directors. One of the key items is the 2023 CAFR, or Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Then we will have our next regular board meeting on Tuesday, February 13th. And that will begin at 6:30. Then we'll have immediately that same week, we'll have 2 committee meetings. So that will be, we'll all see each other again. February 15th is the Finance and Administration Committee meeting, and February 16th is the Operations Committee meeting. A couple of external meetings popping up is the February 2nd North Bay Watershed Association meeting, as well as the Sonoma Water Advisory Committee / Technical Advisory Committee, which will be on February 5th. That's all I have.
Thank you, Terry. And
I think we have WAC TAC on February 5th.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
Sonoma.
Oh, you said
I just, yeah, I whacked it.
yeah, that's there. She said it. And with that, we will adjourn our Marine Water Board meeting of January 23, 2024.
Thank you.